It's
Hello
been
and welcome
84
back.
years, and we're here.
84 years. It's been so long, and since our last one. But look how big this boy is. Look how big she is. Also, we finished a couple of other books in between for different different arc reads and stuff like that. We're back at it. Book 3 out of 4 in the Dandelion Dynasty, The Veiled Throne. Our cover check. This is the 10th anniversary edition. Banger. I love it.
I like
It's
the
sick.
anniversary edition covers way more than the originals. The
I don't
originals,
like the originals.
the originals feel a tad uninspired. I don't know. I guess I think I kind of get the like theme of what the original art was going for, but the 10th anniversary ones pop. They draw your eyes to the page.
And there's a couple of versions of this book that I actually really enjoy. Nice. But yeah, the original ones I think are the weakest, which is unfortunate. But people are like, yo, you could never beat the original if there are copies of it. Yes, you can. And if you don't think that you can, then you're wrong. And it'd be like that.
Was that a song? If you don't think you can, then you're, I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway, what to read? How many pages?
Yeah, we have feelings about this book. We
do?
have lots of things to say. I think we should just jump into it.
980.
It was such a long, it was chunky. The first one was like 680, right?
Yeah.
Google, how many pages in the Grace of Kings?
It was like 680 or 688.
656, 640, 656, depending on the kind or the edition. And then the second one was called Wall of Storms.
Yep.
And that had 880. So we went 650, 880, and that one was 960.
Yeah, 970. I mean,
And
but
the
this one felt 970. This one, I don't know. We'll get into this, but I feel like we really took a hit here in the pacing department.
Yeah.
But
And
we're here to talk about our characters first.
That's true. Character development.
I liked I don't know how to phrase this. We're kind of following like the kids now, right? Because everyone else is just dead besides Gia. Who her character development is like, I mean, it's prime. She's essentially Khaleesi. Where she's just like, I'm gonna, do the good stuff and fight the good fight. And she just goes off the rails, except she's a lot more subtle, not burning things down with her dragons.
Yeah. Gia's a good character because she causes me to feel things. So she's written well. And the things that she causes me to feel are anger. So.
And like, she thinks she's coming from a good place too, which just makes it, it's like, you have to make your villains, well, I mean, she's not seen as a villain, but she kind of is a villain.
The best villains are the relatable heroes that do the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ton of themes. Her behavior is a ton of themes throughout the book. Like the whole, she's advocating for Dara not being a state of war, not being a place of violence. And she does things that are frowned upon to push this world of peace that is fake. It's peace built on lies, but
you do. Yeah, her whole thing is judging or like accounting for the whims of the heart type thing is what she keeps telling Zelmi. Like, you can't quantify like these things. You have to like, this happens every time.
Single video.
I don't even hit the table. I don't even move the table. It's not going back up, but you know what the book is at this point.
It's like in my last unboxing where I dropped every single bookmark out of the book.
We're cursed. But besides her, I feel like
we could easily do sorry, I interrupted you. It's not because I hate you, it's because I love you. I feel like we could easily do a really fun like analysis on each character and give them a bumper sticker, right? So like Cooney's thing was the most interesting, always doing the most interesting thing. Gia's is the whims of the heart, right? Isn't that what you just said? As the like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like each character has like, you could give them like a really analytical bumper sticker that like represents their theme throughout
based on the Anno
we've had so far. Yeah. What? Who's that? Whose bumper sticker is that?
Dara.
I mean, I see it.
Yeah.
What's Firo's?
War is good.
Vengeance is a necessity.
Yeah, but I feel like, because that's how they like everyone perceives him, but I feel like when he talks, and he is hot-headed, there is that, but I feel like he's like, listen, the treaty's gonna end. We have to be at least preparing in case this thing doesn't. And everyone's like, no, we don't even need to prepare. And he's guys, what are we doing? So like, you can see like, because the whole book, he's like, we need to keep doing this, and he has to do some of it in secret. I mean, it's gonna come to fruition in the fourth book where they're going to be underprepared,
or maybe it won't. maybe we'll just do Supermarket Simulator in the 4th book and we won't see what happens.
He, I feel like, is very good at tying up loose ends, especially like even things from like previous, like 2 books ago, where like we've seen a character like the whole the widow who was running the restaurant. Now that was a huge
Widow
part
Wasu.
of this book. Yeah, so like he does a good job of bringing back characters that didn't really have an end.
It's
so
true.
I think we'll be okay. Hopefully.
I agree.
But I gave it a point in character development just because I feel like the characters that we got, even though like some of it just felt kind of pointless, every character was, I felt like, fleshed out. Everybody had some well-roundedness to them. Nobody had anything left on the table.
Yeah, I gave it a point too. He writes deeply reflective characters, which is really fun to read because we get to really see the emotional state of each character that we see. So,
and I feel like we meet each character at like an interesting point in their life, and then we end up going backwards, and then we see how the character goes through whatever they're going through when we first met them by reflecting on what they went through before, and then we get to see how they are in the future. So we get to see like the whole circle from like the middle.
That's a really interesting observation. We find these characters at a turning point and we flash back to an earlier turning point in their life.
Mm-hmm. And then how they learned from this moment.
How they grow and develop.
All right, that's a point for character development. Go us.
The next category, originality and creativity. I gave this one a point too. I mean, he writes an amazing world. That's why we're still here, right? He writes this amazing, sprawling world, these amazing concepts, the way that he twists like classical concepts into fantasy concepts is really cool. The whole like Silkmotic force being their understanding of electricity.
And I feel like the whole originality and creativity, this kind of wraps into like world building and other things, but especially with this author, I feel like we get like it's also connected. Like we have a whole unique story that's basically told as the history of Dara, but we get to zoom in on characters and things that are happening. But also there are gods involved that they can do some like minor things, and some big things inadvertently, I guess, but the focus isn't really on that. And like our whole theme for this book was back to the basics, and even the gods are realizing that. So it's like all the magic and stuff is broken down to its most basic form. And so like the Silkmotic force, like we get to learn about that, and the even like the wheelchair contraption thing. Like, well, this is all magic, and the smoke things from what's her face from the 2nd book is all just broken down into not magic. It's broken down into science. And I'm like, it's cool. I like that.
Smokecraft.
Yeah. He makes something fantasy and turns it into science.
Yeah, it's really nifty. The world is just like not a whole lot to say. It's a win.
Big dub. Engaging storyline.
The first hit, the first punch, the first maybe not a boom, but more like a boom.
Yeah, I felt, and we had talked about this, and I'm gonna rate this book a little bit harsher, like than I normally would, because I like this story. I like this world a lot. But I felt like this book was a huge step back in a lot of departments, and engaging storyline was one of them. This was an anime filler episode that lasted 1,000 pages. This was basically what One Piece is in its entirety. It's just filler. None of it is anything.
Damn. I don't agree with the One Piece insult because I'm a One Piece fan, but yes.
I'm just trying to insult the community.
This was a big anime filler arc.
Dude, so bad.
My biggest beef with this is that like, okay, the pacing in the first book was rocky because it was a dry history of the continent, but it was really like broad, tons of world building, like rocky but forgivable because we're seeing so much, so many different interesting things, so many things that matter. We cover so many years over the first book. The first book's like how many years? Like 20 years, 15 years. It covers this like farther back than that actually, because it starts out with Cooney as a kid witnessing like Peter almost being assassinated by Luanzia. So like, and then Cooney's like by the end of the first book, he's the emperor and he has kids that are like, his oldest is like Thera is probably like 8 to 10, and Timo are probably like 8 to 10 at the end of the first book. So we go like 30, 40 years in the first book. And so it's like, it's dry and it's broad, but we cover a lot. The second book, boom, locked in. We see like zoomed in. We get like a perfect mix, perfect balance. We get this view of the world, but we also zoom in on a few different families and see a lot of like their really interesting parts of their journeys. We still see a zoomed in picture of a lot of different people and see interesting parts of their journeys. The third book, we saw like we didn't do any of those. Yeah, we were really dry and zoomed in on one little thing that didn't really seem to further the world at all.
Like
it was very confusing.
He was trying to move some chess pieces on the board, and he had to get them places, and he did, but it took. This could have been, and I put this in my notes somewhere else. I don't remember else. This could have been a novella. Like, it could have been 200, 300 pages. And even long-winded, it could have been 400 pages. This was almost 1,000 pages of just
we literally accomplished
simulator.
three things in this book. Maybe we could have accomplished everything that I think we accomplished 4 things. Maybe I'm forgetting and you can remind me. Firo having his whole like trying to build his army and meeting the Garnoffen trainers. Gia doing her whole secretive stuff. Thera and Takval traveling, going through some conflict, and Farah doing her restaurant simulator. There's like a couple other things, like Zomi was briefly featured, but like those 4 things we probably could have seen so much faster.
The thing is, a bunch of little things happened, and a bunch of little important things happened, like everything with like the enslavement of the 2 islands or whatever by the Luku right now that are, you know, under siege, and that's all like they're like mass killing. But that was such a small port. Like, there's so many small little things that needed to happen and that did happen, but there was too much filler in between. There was a lot of just stuff shoved into this book for no reason, and it made it boring. It made it all the explanation that we loved in the first and second book. This book, it didn't need it. Or
50% of this book was Farah goofing off in disguise at a restaurant.
Almost literally 50%. I think from like 42% to like 70 something, 80%. I think it was 80%.
Yeah,
so 40%.
I was literally flabbergasted. I was like, haha, we're seeing Farah's backstory. When's it going to end? No, really, when's it going to end? 70%. No, really, when's it going to end? No, okay. No way. This is not the rest of the book, right? Like, this isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the problem was, too, that why this was kind of more boring than the other ones is once things finally at least got interesting in the restaurant part, or with Thera, we had a POV switch. So it broke all that traction. So, like, the fire that he built just got snuffed out, and then we had to rekindle it with the next story. And then by the time that was like building up, boom, snuffed out. I'm
really judgmental on POV switches because they make or break. I feel like they make or break a multi-POV story. Like, when the POV switch is interesting and you switch to an equally as interesting story, it really enriches the story. When you switch from an interesting storyline to one that you're not invested in, it really sucks down the storyline. It really, like, it's a immersion break. It's an immersion break when you switch from a very invested storyline to one that's you're not invested in at all, and you have to like restart, go through the exposition, get yourself invested, and then you get invested and it switches, and it's like, what are we doing here?
And I feel like leading into the next one's story end and wrap up, so I give that one 0 points.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that too.
The more I thought about it, I was giving it points because like I enjoyed being in the world, but I enjoyed the world, not the story in this one. So I gave it a 0.
I agree. I think the story that we spent 1,800 pages in the first 2 books crafting is like not progressed.
We hit a very big speed bump.
It started giving us a month countdown that I expected to progress in this book, and it didn't. It started saying 17 months until the Wall of Storms reopen, or until the Liuku must leave for the Wall of Storms to reopen. And then it was like 17 months. And I was like, okay, you're giving us a countdown as if we're about to jump, but we're not jumping.
Pissed me off. It's like this long of reading to tell us what situation we're in right now. I'm like, I don't even care. I skipped it for some part. I just looked at what island we were on and kept going.
It was tough.
Leading into the story end and wrap up, I'm going to read you a quote.
I'm here for it. Hit me with it.
This is from the end of the restaurant stuff, our favorite part. Quote, the announcement of the final result was anticlimactic. And I thought that was ironic because this whole book was anticlimactic. We got 40% just for the end to be anticlimactic. No big anything. And yeah, we had the whole like scandal that they met with him at the end. So it wasn't actually the end, but it was like it felt like the author knew that he was long-winded, and he goes, well, I already wrote all this, so I might as well keep it going. Because even the gods later on, they said, what did they say? Unbelievable. So we've been stumbling around at cross purpose. None of us even shared the same plan. Talking about how they just wasted their time doing all these different things and nothing came to fruition. It was just, I don't know. I gave it a half point because like characters got where they needed to. Some story, like the storylines that did happen got wrapped up and it put us in a good spot for book 4. But some of the stuff that did end, I just didn't care about. And, I'm not going to like everything in a book, I guess, but I just felt like this was just way too far-fetched to be anything worth.
Yeah, it's so confusing. I think we're harsher on books that take a step back between books, like when they get a really good momentum or a really good trajectory, and then they're like, no. Like, we really enjoyed Ben Shankman's series, and we had a tough time with his second book, and I think that was why, in the kind of the same kind of feel, because we loved the first one, and we really enjoyed the third one, and the second one didn't do it for us, and this is kind of like that. It's like, first one, a little slow. The second one really got going. And the third one was like, you did an entirely different thing and it didn't work.
And normally it's the second book curse.
Yeah.
And this was a hard third one. And I actually wrote another note too. The gods were talking to each other, the brother and sister. They said, isn't that the entire point of our improvised schemes, of this intricate closet drama, of a temporary respite from armies clashing by night, little sister? So he's basically saying, isn't that the point of us zooming in all of this so we get a break from all the fighting? And my note was, the author is telling us the whole point of this book was to focus on something that wasn't the fight, to take a break. 1,000 pages of a break is insane work. Insane work. I remember reading that and I'm like, you are a hoe bag. You're a hoe bag. I have a whole long quote that I saved from Gia too, and my only note was, bitch.
Every time, that was one of the really hard things about us being a little out of step reading this book, is that every time Gia did literally anything, I wanted to text you and be like, I literally hate Gia so much.
Dude. It's crazy.
Every time
the thing I highlight, that's the other thing I highlighted was, it was how she pushed suspicious Nekakimo to rebel, proud Jin Mazzotti to overreach, insecure Rinkota to betray his friends. It's how she prodded the Laiku into revealing their true character by leaking the news of the anticipated opening the Wall of Storms, and how she nudged Timo into sabotaging his own misguided collaborationist project by appealing to his ideals. I'm like, you're literally just sabotaging the plot for under the guise of what?
Of being a good ruler. I'm sabotaging everyone because it makes everybody happier. It makes it
Nobody's
healthier.
fighting if nobody's alive.
That was a good one.
Yeah, she kills me, man.
That's actually basically Gia's bumper sticker from the second book. If everybody I love dies, then there's no more opposition. Nobody disagrees with me if everybody that disagrees with me dies.
So anyway, I give this one a half point in story end.
Yeah, half point in story end here too. I mean, it ties into the storyline. The storyline being so wishy-washy and not linear and not engaging makes the end like not there. Didn't do it. Didn't build. Wasn't dynamic. All right. On a positive note, onto world building and setting.
World building and setting. This is where the author shines. I love this world. He does a fantastic job in his descriptions and world building. I don't think anyone would look at this and be like, wow, I have no idea what's going on. You know what's going on. You know what the characters look like. You know where they live. You understand all the subplot. Like, it's all there. And I think it's done really well.
Yeah, there's I could probably go on a tangent on this for quite a while about all the different little things we see, like the I forget exactly what they're called, but they were like something sponges, and it was essentially like a delicacy for the Liuku that was just animal brains. From I
remember you talking about
that to like an indoor library lab with a giant platform elevator for cripples because Zomi needed a way to get to the lab when she couldn't walk, to like street magicians who have carts on wires that they're using to teach like animals to do like magic tricks. It's crazy. He does
some crazy polls, almost like Matt Dinneman polls, where he like writes all this stuff, and later on he goes, I said this before, I can use that. I said this before, I can use that. Either he way plans out tiny, intricate details, or he just remembers it all, or has like really good notes where he goes, I said this, I could use this, we're gonna need something here. It's crazy.
Yeah, his world building is great. I gave it a point. The setting, the world building, it's a win. It's why we're still here.
It's why we're here. Let me explain why we're almost not here anymore.
Now that we've told you why we're here.
The pacing and structure. Do you want to rant first, or do you want me to rant first?
Go ahead. Bring us in.
I have a little bit of emotional bias here because this pissed me off. So the books, they're getting longer as we go on because more stuff is happening, which is the typical, run of the
for an
mill.
epic fantasy. Epic fantasies get longer.
There
happens.
Like I said, this could have and should have been a novella. 400 pages max, which is already a novel, first off.
Yeah.
400 pages. But for this, we'll call it a novella. Should have been a novella. It could have been easily a lot more concise because the problem is...
opportunity for him to do what Sanderson and Rockio do and make it like a book 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. This would have been a great opportunity for that. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, it would have been because we had so much of nothing happen. We got characters, like I said, we needed where they needed to be, but we're just so long-winded about it. I don't know. I felt like he was trying so hard to develop these characters because they weren't in the first book and they were kind of in the second book, and he just took too much liberty with that. I don't know. The pacing was... It felt like we were reading 1,000 pages. There wasn't really a lot of points where I was like in it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I read this amount. It was like, oh my God, I've only read this amount the whole time. And the hard part is with the structure is he kept, like we said before, POV switching at times that just weren't appropriate. Like if we would have finished like he did in the first and second book, where he would finish a little back storyline or finish the storyline and then go back, or however he went, he would finish and then move on for the most part, or get 90% there, go to another spot, and then do the last 10% when it made sense. This one was, here's 25% of this boring thing, and now it's really getting good at the 30%, and then we're going to switch to something else. And then you're going to start really enjoying this, and then we're going to go back. It's like, dude.
He honestly probably could have done... Dude, to like, what would have improved this slightly, I would have still been frustrated with the content, but if he had done no POV switches and he had completely given us everything he was going to give us about Thera and Takbal, and then moved to a like interlude that covered everything with Firo, Zomi, and Gia. Good. Yeah, an interlude that covers Gia, Firo, and Zomi, and then everything that he gave us with Farah, it would have been better, more linear, more dynamic. But yeah, because there were some interesting things that happened on each sides of those stories, but the POV switches were painful.
Well, it's like painful. You can't give us like small nuggets of interesting things when the main meat of the plate is stale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the pacing was awful. The pacing was rough.
Poop. It was pee-pee.
It was boring. It was like we did not... we played Restaurant Simulator for half this book, and we didn't sign up. I'm like, we didn't sign up for this. We came for epic fantasy.
The writing style already is like, it's really good. It's something we enjoy, but it's not something everyone's going to enjoy because it's dry, like we said, and it's told from like the historical standpoint of Dara. And then you have a pacing issue. You're going to lose, first off, anybody that was only less than 80% interested, right?
Yeah.
And like at this point, I'm like, I'm 3 books in. I want to see how it ends. Like,
right.
I'm anticipating the 4th one to be good. I think it will be good. But if it's not, I'm going to be pissed. We'll see. But I gave this a 0.
I gave it a 0 too.
It's already written. I can't change anything. Emotional impact. What are you feeling here?
I gave this one a 1. In the same way that he does his character development really well, I feel like he drives emotions from his characters really well. Even though we struggled with the content and feeling like a lot of it was filler, it's a clear 1 for me on emotional impact because it does a good job of invoking emotions from me. Like the emotions that Thera went through, and the struggles that she went through with her whole storyline and her like thinking her kids are dead and gone. And
that was pretty powerful.
And Gia makes me physically angry, but also it was interesting to watch her like grapple with the consequences of her actions. That was like what she did made me physically angry. I didn't have sympathy for her struggling with her consequences because of the way she was written. I feel like
she almost is trying hard to feel more sympathy for her actions than she actually does. I feel like she's really enjoying this power play that she has and being able to move everybody around the board. And yeah, she's sad that her firstborn is basically a pawn, but then she uses him like a pawn. I really don't think she's that sad about it.
I don't think she's sad about it either. I think she's intentionally written to lack self-awareness. And that's I think that's part of her story arc, because everybody's like, she likes power too much. She doesn't want to give up the seal. And she's like, no, that's not it at all. It's just not ready yet. And it's like, I think I think it genuinely is that she likes the power and likes being in control and feels like she's the best one to be in control.
But that's because when we first met her, she wasn't like that. Like, I feel like book 1, she was like the wholehearted, rebellious daughter that went with the bandit son or whatever because he's got an intelligent side and she can fix him, blah, 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 blah. And then, but she's really smart. And I think she got that taste of power and then didn't realize that's what she liked. And then, she got kidnapped and everything like that. So that made like that kind of turned things around for her in terms of like how she viewed how things should be ran. But I think once she got that taste of power, she goes, "This is kind of nice."
They
knowing
foreshadowed it in book 1, and I didn't see it going this far. They foreshadowed her being a crazy politician in book 1, and the whole like her getting off of the airship to like save the kids, and Soto was very much like,
And she even said something to her.
You
She goes,
"You
"This
gonna
is
be
an
crazy.
interesting play."
Yeah, you gonna be crazy." But I did not see it going this far. I didn't see her basically killing off everybody and being like, well, I'm the best choice for Dara.
You kind of gave me, I was going to do a half point for this one, but I think I am going to give it the full point because I feel like the characters all went through something and felt something, and you could feel it on the page. Whether or not I necessarily cared about the story, you could at least feel the emotion through the page as well as.
Another good example, Kinry's mentor and her whole emotional turmoil about wanting to teach Kinry and wanting to be his mentor, but not wanting to like lead him to believe the Ryugu were evil, and then like getting captured and being like, I've been wrong this whole time and I should have told you all along the truth.
That was a good point. Good part.
Yeah. There was a lot of the emotions were strong. And I think that comes with how well he writes character introspection, character reflection, the characters looking so deeply at their actions.
I will say though, the couple of reveals that happened in the book that were supposed to be high impact, high emotion situations, I felt like he told us, the reader, way too far in advance. So when they actually happened 80% later and all the characters like, oh my God, I had no idea. We already knew for so long. There was no big, at that point, I'm like, you're dumb for not seeing it.
Yeah.
Like the character is dumb.
Coming.
Yeah, like the whole thing with like Thera and Kinry, I'm like, okay. And then the ogre reveal for Zomi and Kinry, I'm like, yeah, we knew he was your dad from like when they mentioned him. There was no mystical anything
no one was
about
confused.
That. Yeah,
you are really interesting. It's really interesting because the way he writes character arcs are intrinsically impactful and emotional. But when he tried to write like climactic moments, it was like, okay, that's the climax. All right, here we are. That was crazy. That's wild. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I don't know.
But anyway,
I struggle giving that whole point, but I'm going to give it
a half point if you want. You don't have to agree with me. I just feel like he writes emotions well.
I don't agree. What is my camera doing?
I feel like your complaint though is like I feel like it's a storyline and a plot and a pacing complaint. Like you're complaining about his climaxes not being good. I don't think that's an emotional impact. But you could disagree with me.
It is as a reading, like not from a written standpoint, but from a reader standpoint, I feel like emotional impact is important. But I think we got it in other spots where it's almost forgivable. But I feel like if all your twists are predictable, it's like,
give it a half point.
You know what? I said I was going to rate it harsher. I'm doing it. 0.5.
That's fine. I mean, you're allowed to be wrong.
I'm fine with being wrong. All right. It's changed. 0.5.
There you go. You did it. Now we're going to give the book a weird old 2.5 somewhere or 0.75 somewhere when we average it out.
Yep.
It's going to be all your fault.
With that. Live with that.
It's true. The emotional. Nope, we did that. The writing style and prose is next.
I mean, I feel like this is an easy one point. It's hard to recommend this book. I want to recommend the series as a whole to people because it's such a unique writing style that not a lot of people are going to be enjoyed. This is a niche recommendation. The more I read this, the first book I was like, all right, like, I can recommend this to more people after, because the first book you can stop after. I think that'd be fair. I think after the first book, it's a very heavy conditional recommendation on how niche you have to be to enjoy like a very dry historical take on a like fantasy, like almost historical retelling of a country's history. But it's just I feel like he just did such a good job in terms of, even though we had a pacing issue, the prose was perfection, and the writing style in general, and the writing, just the way he puts stories together in an overall pattern, I think is well done.
Yeah, it's if I shall briefly mention Catabasis in Babel, he's intrinsically a really good writer. The points that we struggle with are places that he could improve on, but it's like no doubt he's like a really good writer. One of the places I struggled on with R of Kwong is like, I don't actually think you're intrinsically a good writer. I think that your story premises are good, but that you have a lot of points you need to improve on as a writer. Totally the flip side for him. I think he's intrinsically a really good writer. He just makes choices that are not my vibe. He clearly made a choice with this book. He knew what he was doing. This was his choice. This was his decision. It just didn't work for me in the grand scheme of a 4,000-page saga.
I think the problem was he fell so in love with the story that he wanted to get more in depth with it and tell a more like intimate version of what was going on. And it probably worked really well for him. It just, I don't think it worked well in the length it was told. I would have really enjoyed this as a novella for the 19th time that I've said it.
It's just a lot to ask people to commit to that many pages.
It's like and as a 3rd out of 4, which gets longer. So we didn't really enjoy this, and we talked about this. We're like, we're gonna read it because we want to know how it ends. But damn, is this gonna be a job, a chore, or are we gonna enjoy this one?
Yeah, there's another creator on TikTok. I'm forgetting his name, but he did a whole rant about like, don't write a book if you can't write a good ending. And he essentially was just like, I invested so much time in this, and I thought it was not a great book. And it's
18 days I've been reading this book. 18 days.
There's so many. Look at that. Look at this shelf. From here over is like things I haven't read. And that's one shelf. I haven't read anything that's right there. Our wheel, we haven't touched our wheel in 84 years. Our indie spreadsheet that's got 400 books on it.
I have to dust the wheel so I can write things on it.
It's just tough, man. We're like so invested in this for it to be non-engaging. It's like, do better for me.
But the first two I enjoyed so much. It was a good story,
but do better for me specifically.
I will say I have high hopes for book 4. I am going to be positive for that book, but I think the 3rd book definitely hit that speed bump. But over the speed bump, hopefully we hit the gas. We'll see.
Coming around strong to the final ending, the final
and depth
finish line.
This is another spot. Go for it. Send it.
Yeah. His themes are great too. And the same, we noticed this really early on. His themes, I didn't have as many in the 2nd book as I did in the 1st book, but his themes overall throughout the series, he's done a really good job tying concepts throughout the whole saga, as far as we've been so far. And as much as we've been through so far, we've seen themes from the 1st book pop up again in this book. I'm excited to see what we tie into the 4th book.
The themes hit mostly for the most part, continue through every book. They hit all the characters, especially when like it's heavy in that book. Like this book's heavy theme, I felt like, was back to the basics, right?
Yeah.
And every character went back to the basics, whether it was breaking down something scientific, whether it was even in failure with Thera and Talkfall. Building everything up from scratch, back to the basics, and failing, and now being back to the basics of a plan.
Yeah.
Like, and having to go back to like, all right, what is the root of like being a person type thing? And how can we bring our 20 people together? You know, the Argon, I think. Or Aegon and Dara people together. There was just themes like that where it's like, it's just so good in the theme department. I'm gonna look at real quick my other note because I had it on here. I had a couple of quote things from themes. If you want to speak for a moment while I look for this.
Yeah, the themes. I think the observation that you make that it hits all the characters is really good, because we see all of these characters go back to an earlier dang. This could almost be a theme, how this book itself is back to basics and how it starts over, and how we were like, this is so dry. But maybe that was 5D chess. Maybe he's regressing in this book because that's the theme of all of his characters regressing in their storylines. 5D chess. But anyways, I mean, like we see Farah and Talkfall go back to the basics. We see Gia going back to the basics, and that she struck. struggling with her actions, and she's facing like ghosts of the dead who are like, "You're a terrible person."
When she's going back to her basics too, with her all of her plants and
Yep.
herbology-ness and whatever, she's going back to like using all of those as like tactics for doing different things.
And we see her and Timu go back to the basics with her teeth on the board quote, which is like a really old story that she had told him. It means it's an important part of both of their stories. So like teeth on the board, teeth on the board.
Yep. There's a couple of things. It was one of the notes I wrote was the one of the old wisdoms told by Timu's kids is a lesson that we just read 25% on Thera and her husband learning the same thing. And the quote was, "It is because I am not entirely foolish that I know when I must ask for the expertise of others. The beginning of wisdom is always to know thyself." And that was something that Kunai said as well. And that's something that Thera learned with her husband. And she learned at like the last 5% of the book that she was in, when she's like, she had to relearn herself after she lost her kids and went through that whole thing. The other just random quotes that I highlighted that I thought were good for themes was, written words can be interpreted anyway, and that's why I like the whole book. The Liuku and Aegon and everything were like, listen, your words, you're writing everything down doesn't work for us. It's dead. You can interpret them anyway because you don't know how they were spoken. But if you pass things on orally, you can get that information. And the quote was,
that was
while
really
living
cool.
Voice can respond and adapt, the dead logarithms stand mute, unable to answer an accusation or offer an apologia. Because it's like there's
really
no context. Yeah. Another one, the judgment of one's peers always weighed so much more than the opinions of one's enemies. You're going to pay attention if your friends, talking shit about you a lot more than if enemies talking shit about you. You want to impress your friends. You don't want to impress some random dude. Yeah. A funny thing I highlighted was, if someone looked down our throats, I'd bet they see straight out our asses because neither of us has the twisty intestines needed to hold in shitty plots. And I was like, that's funny. I like that a lot. Funny.
We also see the story briefly reopened of Gia and Gin Mizodi when they read the letter, and Zomi's like, "What would you have us do? How do we handle this? Do you want us to break all of Dara by admitting that Gia was wrong and got everybody killed, or for the health of the nation, should we keep this a secret?" And they're like, "I hate this, but that's what we should do." And it's like,
well, they brought it back a second time at the very end when they were in the cave and they broke that seal.
Yep, that's what I was talking about.
Well, they talked about it in the beginning, like in like a very brief flashback, when Zomi was like having a past thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they talked about it again twice, beginning of the book and end of the book.
And the last one, and it's a strong theme that ties to the second book.
Yeah, and I think this is another big theme that's overarching too. It was, while the aspen wishes to stand still, the wind does not stop.
Yeah, we got that one.
And that was big. With the, I can't remember her name, but the Aegon sister of the uncle who betrayed them was like, listen, I've been trying to avoid war, blah, 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 but like war is unavoidable. I know how this works. And she ends up dying because of that.
Thera's mother-in-law?
Yeah. I didn't know how to. There's so many connecting things. Like all these characters are connected 98 ways to each other, which I like.
We got that Aspen quote 4 times and it was amazing. We got it. Listen,
he repeats quotes separately from characters that wouldn't necessarily know that someone else knows it. It's so well done.
We got it in chapter 7, 28, 35, and 44. When we first get it in chapter 7, do you know who says it?
Hold on.
I was going to guess. Sorry, I should have let you guess.
But it's interesting because he's from the same tribe.
Yeah, but he's
bringing it to the Dara people early, setting the tone.
Yeah, we get it from Takval in chapter 7. We get it from Thera in chapter 28. And then in 35 and 44, I believe we get it from Dara. We get it from Farah. And it's like, why does Farah have this Liuku Aegon quote that we see?
But it's because it's introduced in like a different light. But they end up saying the same thing for the sake of like continuity, but they get it from like a different source, which is interesting because all the cultures have some of the same lessons, but they're learned in like different ways, which is interesting.
And then we get it from the retired Dara military warrior who's like, I just want to lay down and die, and they're like, but though the aspen wished to stand still, the wind didn't stop.
Yeah, it's like the guy you talk about the guy that hired in book 2, Naoman T or whatever, who ended up fighting. No, book 1. Who was like on the island, and they're like, "Hey, buddy, like we need you back. You got to come out of retirement." It's essentially the same thing. So, like we talked about themes back all the way to book 1. New themes introduced in book 3, or not necessarily new themes, but highlighted themes in book 3. You can see in the previous books, which I think is cool because if you're gonna highlight different important sets of themes you want to focus on per book, but you'll end up seeing them in all the other books. Like if you look hard enough, they're all there, but they're like highlighted for the purpose of storytelling. And I don't know, full point. I would give more points if I could. Like eventually, I think when I'm feeling it, I might just give like an extra little point here or there or something when I'm like, wow, this was just insane.
Laying the groundwork right now to start giving bonus points in our categories.
That's a surprise tool we'll use for later.
We'll revisit this in the future.
Rereadability and lasting impact. I don't know. If I did a reread, I wouldn't read past book 2. So far. I don't know how book 4 is going to go, but book 3, you could skip book 3.
You really could.
You could pick up probably what's happening in book 4 by just context
clues. It could be
clues.
a novella. We could summarize book 3 in 5 minutes, and you could read book 4.
Maybe we'll do that on a YouTube video.
Maybe we'll do a 5-minute YouTube summary, and you could read book 4.
Which is unfortunate, but I really like the world, so it gets a half point because I'm coming back to it.
Yeah, we're still here.
I do think this book gives the lasting impact, not necessarily this book. I think a series overall gives a lasting impact to where it was the storytelling was so unique and the writing style that I felt that was worth checking out just to get a different perspective of reading in like your brain's repertoire, where you can see like, okay, like this is a different style. This is something that could be written.
It's a good change of pace.
It's a good change of pace.
Reminds me that 1,000-page books can still challenge me.
And not in a good way. I was challenged. It was a war of attrition. We won, but at what cost?
Since we started and finished this book, I read Shadows Upon Time, Sun Eater 7, which is basically 1,000 pages, and I read Strength of the Few, James Islington's Will of the Many, book 2, which was 780 pages. And both of those, there's points where you're locked in and you're like, whoa, how much of this book have I read? This does not feel like 1,000 pages. This book felt like 1,000 pages.
Every single one of these pages held weight. And I'm sore a little bit.
I'm tired
from having to carry this.
That was a lot.
This is a textbook. I don't know. I will say I am disappointed with how this book went, but I am not discouraged fully. I'm ready to move on to the next one, which is the plan, because our current rating for this book is a 6.75, much lower than our other scores. Our other scores were a 9.5 on book 2 and an 8.25 on book 1. All relatively good scores. And 6.5 is not bad, but compared to the other ones, you're like, whoa, what happened type thing. Pacing happened, fortunately, or lack of.
Yeah, lack thereof.
But anyway, the plan is we're not giving up because we are strong-willed individuals. And what was the quote? Let me pull it up.
The aspen wanted to stand still.
The wind still blows.
Yep.
And
wow.
That's
for us specifically in this moment.
I'm gonna get that tattooed upon
okay, that's actually a great tattoo item though. A great tattoo quote.
Yeah, put that on your Pinterest, your Pinstagram.
The kids are doing it. Stand still, but the wind does not stop.
Yeah, no, that's actually kind of a banger quote.
It really is.
I might use that in my daily life when I go through a very minor inconvenience. I'm gonna quote that. My coworkers will be like, "What the fuck are you talking
Violet's
about?"
gonna spit up on you, and you're gonna be like, the aspen wishes to stand still, but the wind does not stop."
Yeah.
Incredible.
So we're going to book 4. That's the plan.
My daughter peed on me yesterday. And the aspen wished to stand still, but the wind did not stop.
Exactly. But we're not reading anything in between this time.
Nope.
The plan is going right into it.
Well, I read something in between.
This train is chugging. And I'm excited for book 4. I will say that. I will grab it so you can see.
Your camera did the spinny thing.
It does that. Reggie's wearing a hat. This is book 1. I don't know what my dog's doing. That's book 1. This is book 4. Insane.
Brother.
This is the book we just read.
I don't know if I'm mentally ready for this.
You chose this series, which I'm glad, kind of. I wish it was at a different time, but
Same?
you chose this series. I wonder what the difference between, like, so these are the 2 books, right? There's like, I can't even fucking
It's only
hold
like
them.
100-page difference between book 3 and 4.
I mean, you can still see it,
Yeah.
but yeah. Speaking bones, we're gonna
What?
get to reading on that. Thanks for watching our breakdown. If you have read this series before, let us know, or if you are willing to dive in and want to chat about this with us, let us know, because we'd love to talk about the series a bit more. Maybe we can set something up. I think it'd be pretty cool.
It'd be fun. We like to talk about books. If you like to talk about books, we can like to talk about books together.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching.
Till next time, RSQ out.